Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today we've got a very practical session where I had a request from one of my subscribers who asked, how do I track all of my DMs? Because obviously when you're sending a lot of messages every day, it can pretty quickly get out of hand. So I decided to make this video where I'm going to share some advice and some resources with you guys that you can go and implement straight away in your business. So the first thing is in the comments, in the description underneath, in the description, there's a link to the template of this sheet, which you guys can just take and use straight away. So I'll talk you through how to do that later, but don't forget, if you get some use out of it, give me a like. If you get stuck, give me a comment. And in the next sort of 10 minutes, I'll chat through all of the things I do to track my LinkedIn lead generation activities. So as you'll see on here, I have the first and most important thing is my stats page. So on my stats page, you can see that I track the day of the week. And the beauty of this one is you just need to choose the first day of the week, and then you can drag it across and it will automatically update everything else in there. If you need to make a new week, you just copy all of this and paste it down below. But more importantly than that, what do we actually track? So I will track each day how many prospects that we add to our sheet. And each day at the moment, we're going out for a maximum of 30 per day. Now, I need to warn you guys a little bit about this. You shouldn't ever go above 150 requests a week, right? That's the limit. If you do go above that, then LinkedIn will likely stop your requests going through. Now, it's really annoying with LinkedIn because they don't tell you that you're on a limit and it doesn't look any different. So it's not like Facebook where you send the request and it tells you you've hit your limit. It just makes it seem that your request has gone through and that's it, which obviously then means you burn the lead, you lose the lead because you think you've requested them and maybe they haven't responded, they haven't accepted. So you just assume they're not interested. But actually, it could be that you've just hit that limit and LinkedIn has decided to stop you sending more requests. Now, the way around it is if you don't have a Sales Navigator account, you should never send more than 25. And regardless, you should always start at 20. And for the first 2 or 3 weeks, as you're warming up your process of sending connection requests, you should send 20 a day, 5 days a week. And then you can ramp up to 25 and then go to 30. And assuming you don't have any problems at that level, you're fine. So how do you know if you've got problems? Well, one of the things is that your connection acceptance rate will start to plummet. Between 30 and 50% is the range. And as you can see, we're at 48%. If you start to notice that it's different from a normal week, it's starting to dip, then you could have this problem. And the way out of the problem is to basically slow down and start doing 20 a day for a period of time and seeing if that affects your connection acceptance rate. If it doesn't, then it could be that your profile is not very good and it needs optimizing. And that's a different conversation and a video for another day. The other thing it could be is you're targeting the wrong people. So you can revisit your targeting to see if that's causing you to have a lower acceptance rate. So they're the three things: targeting the wrong people, a soft ban from LinkedIn, or the fact that your profile just isn't very good and needs optimizing. And that's if it doesn't speak to one person about one problem you solve. Basically, that's it. So then the next thing we track is our initial message response rate. So how many people are replying? At the moment, it's a little bit low. I think that's because of summer. We're usually somewhere between 40 and 50%. Again, it depends on your target market, the kind of people that you're targeting. But generally speaking, you want to be in that 20 to 40% range. Then obviously we track how many discovery calls we book, how many sales calls from those discovery calls, and then the classic followers to make sure you're going in the right direction there, profile views and post impressions. And these do move a lot, right? Because if you have something go semi-viral one week and then the next week it's not so good, it will change. But it's just good to have an idea of your numbers, especially because what you track, you attract, right? And if you track the numbers and you track who you're reaching out to, you're more likely to get results because you're focused on it. Now, the good news is none of this stuff is manual, and you'll see in the template that I've given you that all the formula are there, and all of this will automatically update. The only exception to that is these 3 columns at the bottom, because you need to get those from your account once a week on a Friday. But it's not, or a Saturday, depending on which days you work, but it's not the end of the world, right? So the pipeline itself, now you'll see there's extra tabs on here, and these are complexities I've added because my process is quite developed. For you guys, you'll see on the tracker, there's only 4 tabs, and I'll talk through those at the end. But next, we're going to look at the pipeline tracker. So in here, this is where we will keep the name, the profile link, the location, which is fairly straightforward and obvious. For me, it's mostly developed nations because that tends to be where people resonate with my high ticket offers. You have the prospect stage. So this is tracking where people are at in your pipeline. And if you look over here, you will see what each of those means. So a C0 is a potential prospect. A C1 means you've sent the connection request. A C2 is a cold connection. So they've connected with you, but you haven't engaged or had a conversation yet. C3 is an engaged prospect. You're having a conversation, they're replying, you're finding out what their challenges are and if they're a fit. C4 is a discovery call stage. So a clarity call or a discovery call has been scheduled to assess if they're a fit. Then it's sales call, which is that deeper discussion where you're looking to close them on your offer. And then it's C6, which means, the process has worked and you've closed them. It's fantastic. Happy days, celebrate, right? So how does all this update? Well, this is automatic, and you'll see there's a formula in here. So don't change this. I think I have a protection on this cell anyway, so don't worry. This will update automatically based on the dates you put in these columns. So if you look in column F, this is when we add the prospect to the sheet. And in my process, we add the prospect and we go and engage with them. So make a comment or like something they've posted, and then we put this date. Now this will turn green as soon as it's time to send them the initial message, which in my process is 7 days. So after 7 days, this turns green and we send them the initial request, and we put the date in the date request sent column. After that, we're waiting for them to connect so we can then send the first message. Now, there's a few ways to check this. You can obviously do it manually, which is a little bit time consuming, or you can wait for the notification from LinkedIn to tell you that somebody's connected, or you can do it in Sales Navigator, which is the way that I would recommend it's done, just because it saves time, and obviously time, energy, money, really, really important, right? The more you can be having conversations with people, the more likely you're going to close deals and make money. And that's what we're all here for at the end of the day. So then once they've connected, we will send them the first message, which is the same date generally, but we keep it so we can keep our tracking here, and just to make sure we've done that. And then the key bit is reply and follow up. So in column M, we track when they first reply. And if they don't reply, this date will update based on the date of the last message. So as soon as you send them the first message, you also update this column, and you can then see when it's been 7 days and when it's time to reach out and have another conversation with them. Okay. And this is really, really important, because the amount of times I've closed people that didn't reply to my first message, or maybe they replied, we had a conversation, they forgot, things fell off, whatever. And then I was able to re-engage them by coming back in here and seeing that it was time to follow up. So this is really, really key to everything you're doing, right? But the good news is the sheet does it automatically. It gives you that date, and it also turns red, so you know it's time to follow up. Okay? And then after that section, we obviously have when was the discovery call booked, when was the sales call booked, when did we close that client in column U, and then a bit of a tracker. So what problems and challenges did we identify? What things can we check before the sales call to make sure that we've got all the information in our pocket of where they're struggling, of how we can help them, of how our offer solves that issue. And then just for tracking purposes as well, preparing for future sales calls and all of that stuff, we also track what objections were raised, because then we have a real picture of where are people objecting in general to our offer? Where can we maybe strengthen our offer or our presentation in our sales calls? And that's the key thing with all of this. It's the data that you get by having the conversations that help you to improve your offering. And improving your offering obviously means you're going to make more sales. And if you don't have any conversations with people and you're sat making your content and your offers and all of this, and you never put it out anywhere, how do you know if it's a good or a bad offer? And that's the key. So That's the process. It might seem like quite a bit of work because it is, but really, if you're not spending an hour a day on conversations and having connections with people, what are you spending that hour of a day doing? To be honest, like what's more important than having conversations and getting people into your pipeline and tracking those conversations so they don't fall off? Now let's go over to the template that I'm going to give you guys. So this is free. It's in the comments. Why do I keep saying comments? It's in the description below, and you can open it, go in here, click file, make a copy, call it your name or your business, and copy it over. Now, this is the same template that I just showed you and also the tracker, but you've got two other tabs, and one of them is not interested and the other is try again in 6 months. So what's the difference? Well, the people that said they weren't interested or stopped replying and you didn't hear anything for 4 weeks or 5 weeks, these people are not dead leads. They're still connected to you. They still get your messages and they're not an email if you send them. And they still see your content more than other people would because they're connected with you. So periodically, once a year or whenever I have a new offer or a webinar, I will reach out to these people and send them a message and say, hey, I'm doing this thing, or I've got this thing, this resource, this offer, whatever. Are you interested? Would you like it? Can I put you on the list for it? Do you want to see the link? Right? And this yields a lot of results because these people, they're already had a conversation. As long as you're not spammy and pitch slapping and doing all this rubbish and you're having a proper conversation, people respect that and they know that you're connected to them, so they'll listen. So that's who goes on this list. Now, the difference between this and try again in 6 months is that the try again in 6 months crowd are the ones that said, just not right now, or this could be good for me, but I need a bit of time, or I'm in the middle of this thing on this. And these I will try and reach out to a little bit more often than that. But the 6 months is like a deadline. So I'll go in here, I'll put them there, and I'll make sure I'm reaching out to them at least every 6 months. And again, using them to put my offers in front of. Because if you imagine you're connected to 3,000 people, for example, that's a big list that will get your message whenever you do the offers. So that's how I track my leads, my lead generation process on LinkedIn. And as I said, all of that resource is there. If you do get stuck, please let me know in the comments and I'll try my best to help you. And yeah, if that's been helpful, give me a like, give me a subscribe, tell your friends if they're on LinkedIn and they want to follow someone who's talking about LinkedIn and lead generation. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching.